spend our money on.
Yeah, we're spending our money on these things, and really, how are you gonna determine where the cuts are gonna happen?
Okay, go start. Thank you. First off, as we go for infrastructure, they said that we shouldn't take any federal money. We're the federal government sitting right here. We're being elected to a federal office. You make the federal decisions. As far as highways goes, bridges and ports, how many different states come into this country, to this state by highway? We need their tax dollar to pay for the roads that they're bringing in. As far as foreign governments shipping, foreign countries shipping into our ports, we need federal dollars for that. They're coming in our ports and going across the country. To say that we shouldn't take money from the federal government, since we're the federal government, is ridiculous. We have to pay for the infrastructure that we need for all this business. Republicans don't understand business. They want to cut everything. How's business going to transport something if we close our ports and close our highways? Not going to happen. As far as using money for local things like sewers and schools, we should be taking our federal money for that, because we need to improve them. If we're gonna expand, if we're gonna have more business and better business and a clean environment, we better get as much money here as possible. As a congressman, that's good business to go and get an earmark, where you debate it on the floor of Congress, and you get it. Not slipped in for a vote for something else, but debate it on the floor of Congress. Get as much money for your district as possible to increase business, improve schools, improve sewer systems, improve water treatment, because you want to drink clean water, you want to have clean air, you want your children to have the best education, and you're the government, and it's your federal dollar that's going to be spent on you. Don't say that we don't need it, that it's wrong to take our money back, or that we don't need it because other states are shipping through our state, or other countries are coming into our state and shipping through the other states. We need every dollar possible. And as your congressman, I will work hard to get every federal tax dollar to improve our state.
Do you wanna say anything? Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, hi there. It's, to me, to answer the question, it's a collaborative effort. It is a state issue, so it would be state officials, from the governor on down to chat it up, and then they could prioritize as to what is needed first. There is a finite amount of money. It's not infinite. We just can't. So that's when the priorities have to come in. Colorado, I know they have Interstate 420, I believe it is, built by private money, and it's a toll road. And the business people are getting their money back by paying by the tolls, and they're actually making money on this thing. I believe they built an entire beltway around that city now by private money, and it's a toll road. So maybe we can do the same with the bridges and things like that. If you want to use it, you just have to pay for it.
Can I answer the toll road part?
Sure.
Has anybody here drove on a toll road?
Yes.
Yes.
How expensive is that? How's that gonna slow down business? How's that gonna help business when they have to stop every 10 miles to pay a toll?
I can answer that.
If time is money, if time is money, they're losing money.
The way you get around that is that the state issues these little,
iPads.
it's,
Readers.
yeah, reader thing, and they're built up, so as you drive by, it charges your account.
And
Yeah.
every business, every toll is losing money.
They're saying if they do this,
Every
for
toll,
$8,
Every
$8 to
business
go back and forth of
is
the
losing money.
I-5 corridor if this thing goes through. That's a lot of money.
Does anyone have another question they'd like to pose, or a follow-up with one of the candidates? Go ahead, sir.
Okay, as a tax attorney, I'm rather interested in what you folks are interested in proposing to solve the tax problem that is in Washington. And I want to direct it more specifically, as back when I started in taxes back in '53, taxes were revenue raising. And since that time, they've gone into all sorts of stimulating economy, regulating this, that, all sorts of other things, other than just simply raising taxes and that the Congress spend. And that breaks a problem, and what the politicians do is by throwing it into the tax code, it's treated as deduction, therefore is not a expenditure which anybody's accounted for, it's buried. So, sick 'em.
So let me put the question back to you then, since this is your profession. would you not be willing to come up with a plan that's better than what we've got?
I think a fourth grader could.
Very good. Then you and I are on the same page, that's what Congress should be, a bunch of fourth graders,
Well,
or,
we got that now.
no, these are third graders. But in all seriousness,
Promoting them.
if we're gonna make a change and make it right, you get who's ever involved to come to some consensus rather than have two sides continually fight against each other. You're not gonna win every time, but let's say you're a tax attorney, so you get maybe half a dozen tax attorneys around the country, maybe a couple of senators, a couple from the executive, a couple from the House of Representatives, and maybe 6 more people. Now you've got maybe 12 people, and you come up with a viable plan that works, eliminate all the loopholes, which would of course upset only those that are affected by those loopholes, and come up with a plan that is workable and doable and practical. It doesn't take a rocket science to figure this out, but greed has entered into this thing so much, and the lack of morals, okay? And I'm not preaching anything, but this is a fact, and everybody will agree with that. So it's your job to make the correction, or it's your job to make the correction, or your job, Dan, to make the correction. It's not just Congress's greed and lack of morals job, okay? That's where the problem lies. It's right at your foot.
I'll make it real simple. Until 1913, we didn't have an income tax. It was unconstitutional. Then they amended the Constitution in 1913 because they wanted an income tax. You know what the main argument was in favor of having an income tax in Congress in 1913? It was to reduce the national debt, which was $1 billion at that time. It's now 15,000 times as high. And they said it was only going to be a tax on the upper 1% of income earners. Sound familiar? So it's real simple. You see, back in those days, the government was very, very small. It only consumed 3% of GDP. 3%. Do you know what it is today? 25% of the resources of this society go to the federal government alone. 25%. Anybody think we're getting 25% worth of value there?
No.
What does the federal government produce? Does it produce any wealth? It employs, and 19 million people are employed by government in this country. What do they produce? Paperwork, bureaucracy. They don't make cars. Well, now they do. They don't make televisions. They don't grow food. They don't make clothes. They don't build materials for building housing. They produce bureaucracy. Only 11 million are now employed in manufacturing. You see what's happened is the federal government has ballooned. It's exploded out of control. It's gotten humongous. It's allocating all the resources of society to itself. You see? So what we need to do is shrink the government. Because in those days, our economy was growing at 11% a year. Even faster than China's growing now. That's when the United States became the world's greatest economic power. And today we're happy if we can grow 2 or 3% a year. So, we get rid of the income tax. We cut the spending. And then you don't have to fill out those forms every year. And I'm sorry, sir, but you might have to find another line of work.
Unemployable.
And just one last thing. Obama says we need to make the rich pay their fair share of taxes. How many think we need to make the rich pay their fair share of taxes? Okay, I got bad news for you. You're going to have to cut their taxes. Because right now, people making more than $1 million a year pay 29% of their income in federal taxes alone, whereas average income people only pay 15%, 1/2 as much. So if you want the rich to pay their fair share, you're going to have to cut their tax rates.
I do believe government is too big. That's the problem. Government is too big. They need more and more money. We just keep feeding that machine. that all they do with their money is they want to over-regulate us and put rules on everything that we're doing. Profits are good. Profits are very good. I worked for a construction corporation, and our profits were used to, we have 10 regular employees, and we paid them straight through. When you're in construction and you're bidding work, your job might end December 1st, and you might not start another job until January the 30th. That's how construction goes. But my construction corporation, with their profits, paid all their employees straight through. That's what they use profits for. Another thing they use profits for, Thanksgiving of '79. Things were tight, just like they are right now. There was 10 employees. Our boss brought us in. He says, if anyone knows anyone, a relative, a neighbor that isn't gonna have a turkey, let me know. With his profits, he bought 35 turkeys. As employees, we talked about that for a year. It made everyone happy to know that our company, with their profits, was taking care of us and our community, people we cared about. That's what profits are for. Profits are good. What will happen once we take government out of our pockets and we get regulation down, is we are going to be exploding with jobs. And the companies that don't want to share their profits and don't treat their employees very well, they're not going to have any employees, because everyone's going to go to the good companies who are taken care of and whose corporation wants to give the employee a fair share of their profits. A company, a corporation, profits, it's like being in a family. When you're in a good one, you want to stay. Thank you.
All right. Does anybody remember the old movie? I think it might be coming out with a new one real soon. It's The Blob. It's this big green blob, and it eats something, and then it gets bigger, and then it eats some more, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and that's what our government is. And we can't do it anymore. It just keeps eating, and then from The Godfather, I tried to get out, they keep sucking me back in. We can't have it anymore. We've got to make sure that we limit I love your idea. Get rid of the entire.
Will you vote for me?
If you beat me in the primary, you got my vote for sure. But no, we've got to make sure that we get rid of this. I mean, I remember my dad in the 70s. He was telling me, you know, if I didn't have to pay this much in taxes, I could buy you a car, could buy your brother a car. You can't punish initiative. That's what profit is. That's what our society's based on. Businesses are like, you know, species. It's the survival of the fittest. If a company is healthy and they're showing a profit and they're marketing themselves well and they're keeping their bottom line low, then they'll have a higher profit so they can hire more people. Now each of those people that they hire is now going to be a taxpayer. Now they're going to be spending into the system. And then there's going to be able to spend more and more and more. And make no mistake, we are being manipulated by this kind of socialist ideology. They are manipulating us. They're telling us they're dividing people over controversial matters of no importance. The rich against the poor. We can't do that anymore. They're trying to pull us out of our cars. They're trying to micromanage us through the tax system. That's exactly what they're trying to do. They're trying to adjust our behavior and goes against our natural motives. Our natural motives are to be as successful and to go for achievement. And we've got to stop telling our kids that it's a bad thing, everybody has to tie. There's got to be winners and losers, because that inspires us to want to be the winners. Maybe we lose once or twice, but we want to win. That's why they keep coming back, and that's why they keep running for office.
National debt, it is terror against our country. Nation must run as family run. I have no any debt, I don't owe money to nobody. I bought home, I bought car, so must be a nation. We pay too much income and property tax, $1,000. Where your money go? In government regulators this money. In many corporations don't pay taxes. the candidate for president can say 999 tax. It is, did you ask how much money he got from big company corporation? It will be huge benefits for big corporation, but poor people will lose money. It difficult will be poor in middle class. I against this plan. We have to balance budget. And then I will do everything to reduce income and property taxes.
First of all, my fair share percentage tax plan is based on what you make. You make 5% of the income, you pay 5%. You make 0.01% of the income, you pay 0.01. If you're a business, you'll fall into a district, a section for you. If you're the largest, you pay the largest. If you're the smallest, you pay the smallest. Fair share for everybody. Second, a tax write-off. What do we need tax write-offs for? If a company buys a machine to produce something, they're producing a profit. If they buy a machine that produces 700,000 units today, 3 years down the road, they write that machine off as being worthless, but yet it produces 1 million units. That's almost a 40% increase in profit. But yet they write it off saying that machine is not worth nothing. Third is this government is 3% in 1913. We didn't have an Air Force, we didn't have a nuclear weapons program, we weren't fighting 2 wars, we didn't have Social Security, all these things that add up to things that we want. Things that Republicans started, like the wars, need to be paid for. That's a huge part of our GDP right now. But you're saying, don't interrupt me. You're saying that we shouldn't be paying for these wars. We have to pay for these wars so we don't pass off the debt. Next, nobody makes $1 million by themselves. Not Tiger Woods, not a tennis player, not a person on Wall Street. There's somebody getting up every morning and going to work to make a profit. And from that profit, those taxes should be paid. Nobody makes $1 million by themselves. It takes everybody getting up and going to work to pay for everything. And
30
last, 1935, we paid $1 in income tax, corporations paid $1. Now, corporations pay $1, we pay $6. How in the world is that fair? We've gone 600 times increase in taxes, whereas corporations have stayed the same. Everybody needs to pay their fair share.
Can I have a quick moment to respond to that?
Let's let Robert go and then we'll
Yeah.
have responses.
Thank you.
Yeah.
What was the question? I don't,
Okay, I think a lot of folks forgotten the question.
Something to do with taxes.
Yes, the tax system way back used to be just plain revenue ruling, and now it's used for all sorts of things, stimulating the economy, stimulating this, doing all
Right.
sorts of
Okay.
things
So-
that are not revenue raising, and in addition, by having a lot of this stuff built into the code, expenditures are treated by reason of credits and all those other things are not accounted for as expenditure, so it's not tracked. So there's all sorts of these hidden expenditures through a invisible reduction in the income tax that is happening.
and you would categorize that as tax loopholes, what would you call that?
It's a tax abuse.
Tax abuse.
It's called a
I
bond.
agree, I think, I guess I agree, that the tax system needs to be simplified in the store. The 999 that's being thrown out, I just don't like a national tax. And I think it'll be 999 this year, and it'll be 10 the next year and go up. I do like the idea. I've talked to a lot of people who donate a lot of their time and their money to various organizations, and they are getting tapped out emotionally and money-wise. So I like the idea of going to these corporations and giving them, not tax loopholes, but tax credits. If you fund this school, or if you fund this nonprofit, or if you fund cancer research, and get the businesses involved into that, and give them a dollar for dollar tax break, that would help less spending from the federal government side, relieve some of our citizenry from having to, how many times do you go into Albertsons or King Soopers and they're there trying to, you have to buy cookies, or whatever, for the football team or the Girl Scouts, you know, enough is enough. If we get business to start doing that, give them a tax credit, I like that idea.
Yes, Jim.
Yeah, I just wanted to respond to Don. Dominic, who thinks that we're all part of the federal government. I don't quite understand that, but he responded to my point about how the government was only 3% of GDP 100 years ago. And he said, oh, well, you know, we didn't have all those wars. Well, there was this little thing going on back then called World War I. So that's not true. The United States has been getting into wars on and off over our entire history.
1916.
Well, the wars, no, we didn't win in 1914, but wars have been happening throughout our history. But the main thing is that he says, well, we didn't have all these things that we all want there. Yeah, like the TARP bailout. How many people think that TARP bailout was just a great program where they gave away $867 billion of our money to a bunch of failed banks? That's called corporate welfare. That's called crony capitalism. Well, they give it away to corporations. They also give it away to people who don't like to work, you know, and they'll just stay on unemployment and welfare for years. I don't want all those things. I don't want the government giving away all that money. I'd rather support myself, support my own family, and let my neighbor support his family. I don't want to support his family, and I don't want him to support mine.
Okay, I'm going to stop you. Ken has a question.
I was done anyway.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
We don't have a lot of time, so we have like 3 minutes. So is there someone you want to direct it to then if you have a question?
Not really, I wanted to direct it to all the candidates. When I look at Washington DC, I see the Democratic Party is so far to the left, walking cleanly in lockstep, that they can't see the horizon with a pair of binoculars. And I see the Republican Party so far to the right, walking in lockstep, they can't see the horizon with a pair of binoculars. What would you do, or what assurances can you give us that you would not walk in lockstep with your party? I'm an independent, and I'm looking for candidates who are willing to get off with this crazy bipartisanship that's Washington DC right now, and actually get something done. And that's not gonna be done at the extremes, it's gonna be done in the middle. What are you guys gonna do? Are you gonna walk in lockstep with your party? You're all registered Democrats or Republicans. Or are you gonna be willing to buck your parties?
Okay, so let's
Big question, short
let's
answer.
go Robert. Robert, you get 1 minute.
I would do just what I said tonight. Start shrinking government agency by agency. I think that's a great way. I'd start looking for corporations for support directly, giving them tax credits. And you're right, the country is governed from the middle, or at least we all think here. And DC is here, and that is a problem. But I'd go there and do all the things that I said tonight.
I'm not a typical Democrat. I'll tell you right now. I don't agree with Obama on nuclear power. That's something I would not vote for. Coal companies, they should figure out how to make oil, so we can make tires out of oil. It takes 22 gallons of oil to make 1 tire. Turn oil into, coal into oil to make tires. That's not typical Democrat. As far as the federal government goes, we're the federal government. We pay federal taxes and we vote in federal elections. You're running to be a federal employee. That makes you the government, the federal government.
I've been elected
now.
yet.
Again, doesn't understand what's going on. I myself, I'm proposing a tax plan. When's the last time you heard a Democrat propose a tax plan that makes everybody pay their fair share? They say they want to pay their fair share, but it's not based on what they make. It's based on a set percentage. It's totally different from what a typical Democrat wants to do. As far as other things that's not being not typical and being able to buck the party, I will stand for you guys, not for corporations, not for big business, for the voters of this district.
This is very important issue. I'm fighting many years. It media created 2 parties, both of them corrupted, both of them. When people could vote only for Democrat or Republican, it's violation people's other right, Republican, Democrat, and others. My point is, I don't care, Republican or Democrat, I care a person, I'm American, and what I could do benefits for benefit of this nation. And second, I will fight Republican, I say it Republican, but honest and corruptible. I will fight both Republican and Democrat who are against our Constitution. And second, nobody pick up a question about national security.
15 seconds.
National security is more important than economy. We could be very rich as Saudi Arabia, but if we could not defend our border from weapons of mass destruction, many million people could die. Therefore, my point is,
Okay, time's up,
United
Pavel. Sorry.
countries must defend people.
Okay, just 1 minute, so.
Okay, one more time. Let me go over this one more time. Okay, Democrats had complete control of the White House and of the Senate and of the Congress for this entire time, all the way from 2009 to 2011. Because that's when our newly elected Congress people came in and took over one of the houses. So two of the branches, one and a half of the branches of the three branches of the federal government, the ones we have control of, were controlled by the Democrats. Why couldn't they just get carte blanche, anything they wanted to done? So your argument that we have to get along to go along and all that, it doesn't work. Because clearly, they had everything and they didn't do everything. Right now, we need, my idea is to make sure that we stop the
15
insanity.
seconds.
And so, the Democrats seem to feel that you're not bipartisan unless you shut up and agree with them. I am not going to shut up and agree with them if it's going to be detrimental to our country and to our livelihood and abilities to have jobs. Thank you.
I am an operating engineer by trade, and when I joined 29 years ago, I was just a handful of women in these, it was all men, and they're a tough group, and mostly Democrat. Operating Engineers Union is a private union, and I love my union. I think we're the best union there is. We spend umpteen hours with our apprentices, training them to be safe. I feel that the guys I work with, all of them are safe. I have guys that are in there that are Democrats that want to put up signs for me. They want to vote for me. They believe in me because they know that I concentrate on every problem to get the best solution.
15 seconds.
So I can bring all those guys together, if it's 75 guys, and I can say, this is the way I think we should do the job. We're going to get the best structural result. They will agree with me, and they're Democrats.
I don't work in lockstep with my party. I work in lockstep with the principles that I've been advocating consistently for more than 20 years publicly, mostly on my radio shows, which is limited government, low taxes, balanced budgets. Now, as to your suggestion that the deals are made in the middle and you need to compromise, I would make an analogy. If you're on a bus and the bus driver is headed for the edge of a cliff at 100 miles an hour, are you going to be satisfied with a compromise that means that you only go over the edge of the cliff at 50 miles per hour? No, you're still going over the cliff. We don't want that kind of compromise. That's what got us into the mess we're in. So we do need people in Congress who take strong principled stands and fight against the policies that have created this disaster.
15 seconds.
And I'm Jim Greenfield. That's what I'm going to do. My website is jimgreenfieldforcongress.com. And by the way, my main opponent in this race isn't here, Rob Cornelis. He's the front runner. He does not share these views. He's open to tax increases. He's refused to take a pledge to repeal Obamacare. He's the moderate, and I am the fiscally conservative candidate.
Cornelius, not me?
I hate to tell you, Pavel, but you're not going to win. Either Rob Cornelis is going to win or I'm going to win, and I love Lisa and Belinda,
Dan's turn now.
but it's really a two-man race, to be frank.
Do I get a turn?
Sorry.
I have to disagree with you.
Okay.
And
I
I excuse
respectfully
myself for
disagree.
just a minute because I had to take care of something. So you asked a question?
I asked a question basically about bipartisanship in Washington DC, and the left and the right are far apart, and how do we get how do we get our Congress actually talking to each other, let alone acting together? That's the brunt of it.
Well, I hate to keep harping on the same issue, but everybody in this room is smart enough, really, to figure that out. You don't need to ask that question. It's not going to happen till the change comes about, okay? You know what I'm talking about? Okay. Till you get the right people in there. Okay, and I'm not just talking about myself. I mean, after all, I'm 80 and I may be past my prime. However, I have more experience than everybody in this room, except for one lady. And I could make that happen. For instance, I can get two people to come together and to come with a consensus. They're not gonna win all the time. I quit work,
Time's up, Dan.
time's up.
Time's
I
up.
will finish that story for another time. Maybe you'll let me stay afterwards and I'll finish it.
Absolutely. Any of you that want to stay and talk with people afterwards, we would love to have you. There's water here, restrooms are there.
I just had a really quick comment.
Okay.
I think in this day and age,
Oh,
it
wait.
takes a lot of courage to.
Don't we have one more
Oh,
candidate?
I don't, do we?
He went
No,
first.
he went first.
Right.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I think it takes a lot of courage to run for office these days, more so than I think in any time past. And not long ago, I had a conversation with a longtime Oregon politician who said, you know, it's just not as much fun as it used to be. And I think that when a person is willing to lay themselves wide open the way that people have to these days, I think it's not easy, and, you know, no matter what your positions are or however I feel about it, I'm glad that there are, you know, so many people willing to do that these days. And I think that we have unfortunately lost our sense of decency sometimes politically, and it's quite distasteful to those of us who aren't running for office. And it would be very nice to see a return to decency again, where some things are just sacred and you don't go there.
Those are kind words with a little foresight.
But that is why we do need someone in there that has morals, values, because everyone has a vote, and the election system is the heart of the legal system. And that is why I'm running, because I know my morals.
We're gonna stop it now, just because we have other presentations.
sorry.
We're gonna let Neil Brown give us